Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Sports Talk with Broads. We are broadcasting live from the Manscaped Man Cave. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BROD at manscaped.com. The Sixers have disgusted me for so long, specifically the ownership group and the front office members, and I have claimed that until they fix those issues, they're not going to be successful. When you look at franchises who are ran so poorly, there's normally a domino effect that displays on the court, and I think you saw that last season. There is a problem when it comes to Josh Harris, David Blitzer, Scott O'Neal, and things need to change. And then you heard Elton Brand come out and say, there is change, there's going to be change, I'm now in control of making certain decisions. But there was this big period of time, this huge window where we have not heard a damn thing. They signed Doc Rivers, it gets people on board because they no longer wanted Brett Brown here. Obviously, an upgrade. Today was big, though. Today was big. Personnel moves have been happening when it comes to the front office. Olivia, that is the last name of the gentleman, who is part of the analytic team, parted ways. Now, if you didn't know this, there were so many problems with the analytics. They dove way too deep into the analytics, and it was hurting the team. It was very well known how brutal it was when they dove way too harshly into the analytical world. Analytics are fine in sports. I'm not anti-analytics. There is a reason for them. Numbers do have value, but when you go about it the wrong way, that's when you get suckered down the wrong path, and that's exactly what happened with the Sixers. It was to the point where the minutes and the rotations were restricted, and there were certain players that had to go to the bench at certain times. I mean, you saw it. You saw the rotations, and at times we all questioned, what the hell is Brett Brown doing? Well, there were a bunch of numbers and a bunch of formations and equations that came down with those results, and that's exactly what you got out on the court. Well, it looks like they moved on from some of these analytical people involved, and some of them are still involved. Alex Rucker, but the thing is, their titles have changed. Still involved in that world, in that category with analytics, but less decision-making, more information gathering, if you will. I don't know if that's enough. I don't know if that's enough of a change, but that's what's happening to some of the front office people getting moved around. And some might think, well, this isn't a big deal. No, it's a huge deal. You need to fix the slop up at the top before you start succeeding on the court. Now, speaking up top, I know the Sixers had a really solid assistant coach hiring that I will get to in Jaeger, but there is a name out there that is intriguing the Sixers, and that's intriguing to the basketball world. We just don't know if he is going to stick around in the NBA right now, and that's Daryl Morey. He had success with the Houston Rockets. Now, you can say, look, the guy has never won an NBA championship. Why is everybody freaking out for him to be hired by the 76ers? And I think that's fair. Originally, I saw the reaction and I thought to myself, this is the same as, oh, the Eagles need to go get Jadeveon Clowney. Oh, they have to go get Le'Veon Bell. Oh, they have to go get Antonio Brown. Oh, they have to go out and get Jalen Ramsey. Every time someone's available, this city goes nuts. They go bonkers. And I think that sometimes they need to take a couple steps back. So when I originally saw the name, I know who he is. I know what type of trades he has made in this league. James Harden, CP3. I've seen what he has done. But I thought maybe it was just an overreaction. Oh, go get this guy. But the more and more I allowed the name Daryl Morey to digest, I'm leaning more and more towards I think they truly have to do it. And here's why. If you hire a Daryl Morey, and keep in mind, it's not known if he wants to continue in the NBA. But if he does want to continue in the NBA, the Sixers need to make the call. And there are people out there who I respect a lot in this industry, and I have heard from them that the Sixers are involved in investigating. Let's keep it just there. They are investigating the situation and at least hearing out what's going on with Daryl Morey. So that keeps me intrigued with this whole situation that's going down. This is why I think it's important. Joshua Harris cannot have say. I know he's part of the ownership group. I get it. All right, him, David Blitzer. I know that owners ultimately can make decisions. But he needs to get out of this. He needs to stop. He needs to get his hands out of the cookie jar because that's the reason the Sixers are in the position that they are in now. People are in certain chairs, like Elton Brand, who was in the GM chair. That doesn't mean that Elton Brand had all the say, made all these contract decisions and all of that. The ownership group had too much hands in play. And it can't be that way. And the only way that will change is if you get someone like Daryl Morey in here who will have autonomy, who will be here and making the decisions. You won't get Daryl Morey unless he has final say and he can make the moves. Now, while that sounds great because I know I don't want Josh Harris involved. I know that. I've seen him been pathetic. I've seen him fail. I've seen him make some poor moves. I don't want him involved. I do know this about Daryl Morey, though. He's not afraid to pull the trigger. Would a Ben Simmons trade happen if he's unhappy? Maybe. Would a Joel Embiid trade happen? Maybe. He hasn't been perfect throughout his career. He's okay with swinging, though. He'll swing the baseball bat. He will attempt to go out and make a big splash. You could take that as a positive. You could take that as a negative. Now, I'm not willing to move on from Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid just yet. But he's not afraid to turn over this roster. I just don't know if turnover is what this roster really needs right now in terms of the guns, the top guns here. Yes, and Al Horford, things like that, sure. I'm all in on moving those type of pieces. But you could argue that one of the reasons why the 76ers have not really been able to gel over the last, 3 seasons or so, there has been so much change. Markelle Fultz, Robert Covington, Dario Saric, Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler, Landry Shamet's out of here. See you later, J.J. Redick. Here comes Al Horford. I mean, there's just so many moving parts all over the place. It's a lot. You need to have some sort of gelling period. You need time to get to know players. And you know what? Sometimes it takes more than just a season. That's why you see teams fail in the playoffs. Make a minor change, go back to the playoffs. If they fail again, you make minor tweaks. But in terms of, keeping your core guys, that's why that's so valuable when it comes to playing together, having some failures in the playoffs, and then you build off that as a squad, as a unit, and you go back. Yes, you tweak. When you fail, right, you think, okay, why did we fail? Well, maybe we need to add this. Maybe we need to add that. That's fine. You can add pieces, but you can't deny that the amount of obnoxiousness involved with this roster turnover is way more than we've ever seen before. But comparing that to Daryl Morey, he's not afraid. Positive and the negative. And if he has autonomy, who's stopping him? I wonder how Elton Brand would feel, though, if he was to get hired. Are they replacing me? Is that what he's thinking about? Is the ownership group replacing me? Because Elton Brand already admitted, right? He's learning on the job, and he learned some things, and that's fine. I would think, though, that Elton Brand and Morey could work together and be a dynamic duo. I think, if anything, Elton Brand can learn more from Morey, and it would be a good fit. It would be a good match. Once again, it's not like Morey is this guy who has 32 championships under his belt, and he consistently brings teams to the NBA Finals. He was with the Houston Rockets team who has not been able to get over the hump, but he found that piece in James Harden. He had CP3, he moved some things, he got Russell Westbrook, he moved a lot of first-round picks. I mean, there was some ugliness involved as well, but if you look at the big picture and you look at what he has brought to the table throughout his entire career, a lot of playoff runs involved, getting to deeper rounds. He has been there, he just hasn't won the ultimate prize. I know, though, that I don't want Josh Harris involved whatsoever. And hiring someone like Morey, while I think I'm more skeptical than others, because I do see some flaws in how he handles things, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued because you will then now have a front office that I can at least get behind. Whether it works in terms of winning a championship or not, I can at least support the logic. That's big with me. I go through this all the time. You can always look at things with hindsight and then rip it apart, ridicule, criticize when hindsight's there. But right now, we don't know. So let's throw a hypothetical out there where Elton Brand is here. You have Daryl Morey in the mix. You have Doc Rivers and Dave Yeager as your head coach and assistant coach. And that's what you're rocking. I can support that logic going into things. That at least makes sense. If you show me that blueprint, it's okay, hold on a second. You have people in place that I can at least support. You're moving on from analytical people. They're still going to use analytics, but it was obvious that they went way too hard and way too intense in certain areas that failed. Now, I did hear this, and this makes me happy. They know that they're losing the fan base. Now, that could be concerning. Or are they just hiring these people because they're afraid that they're going to lose the fan base? I'm sure some of it is in that direction. There's no doubt. But at the same time, I am getting the vibe, and I'm shocked, and I hope I'm not wrong. And I'm not easy just to get sucked in. Now that I'm starting to do this a lot more, I'm way more, hold on a second, let me assess this. Let me look at it from multiple different angles before I jump in. So I normally like to, assess the situation differently. Let me get a different look. Let me talk to a couple different people before I just jump in and be like, that's going to work. Because I've been fooled so many times, I have now changed the way that I attack this. But I am getting the sense that not only is Joshua Harris understanding that the fan base is frustrated, annoyed, and demands change, but he sees that what method was going down is no longer working, and he sees that he needs to go down another road. It would be different if, and this is what I thought was going to happen, and I'm starting to, and hopefully I'm not wrong here, but it would be different if he was just making change to make change and didn't truly believe that change was needed, and it wasn't heartfelt, and he was making change, yet he would still be the ones making the decisions. But if you do go out and get a Daryl Morey, and once again, this is all on if he does go out and get a person like this, then it's like, okay, not only does he know change was needed, but he's going down the road of actually making the change without still having his fingerprints all on it. Because you don't hire a man like this and think Josh Harris is going to be involved as heavily as he was, right? David Blitzer. You still have Scott O'Neil and Alex Rucker in the mix. I'm not proud of it at all. I'm actually pretty pissed off about it. But if you make all these other changes, hopefully that's enough where things can go down the right way. But as of right now, I'm starting to get more and more intrigued by what the Sixers ownership group is doing when it comes to change. And quite frankly, I am very surprised. Now, I want to throw this out there because a couple people have reached out to me at this point, and they asked, Broads, how can I help out? How can I help you and help with the channel? And first off, I say just watching, the amount that you watch is a blessing as it is, and I love all of you for everything that you do. But, a lot of people have been asking, Broads, what can I do? I want to do more. So I started the Sports Talk with Broads memberships on YouTube. There's 3 different tiers. It gives you the ability to have a extra layer to Sports Talk with Broads, if you will. Whether it's, talking to me one-on-one about podcast ideas, whether it's implementing a video of yourself that I'll plug into my podcast, whether it's a 30-minute Google Hangout, Zoom, YouTube live stream type idea. Make sure you check out all of the membership tiers that I have added to Sports Talk with Broads underneath the videos on my channel page. The opportunity is there if you want to go down that road. So I really appreciate that. And I also want to tell you about my friends at BetQL. BetQL gives you the best analytics, trends, data, information that you can use when placing a bet. You want to be educated and use numbers that will help you. I've been talking about analytics, right? Analytics are great. You want analytics. They help you. You want these analytics that BetQL can provide for you when it comes to making an educated sports bet. So whether you're a heavy sports bettor, whether you want to get into it, download the BetQL app and you are golden. You can look at the first half, the money line, the spread, and it will tell you where the sharp money is headed, where the public bet is headed. The sharp money, by the way, is where the professional bettors are going. And you can look at where these teams are so far throughout their seasons. If you use promo code BROADS20 at BetQL.com, you get 20% off of your first payment. Make sure you check it out. You will not be disappointed. The assistant coach, Dave Joerger. I really do like this move. So, I wasn't one of the guys who were outrageous with the Brett Brown thing. It was obvious. It was so clear that change needed to happen. I am not denying that whatsoever. I was just not one of the over-the-top people that seemed to outrage all the time over everything, and specifically Brett Brown. And as you're seeing, right, because I remember watching these games, I can't believe that Joel Embiid is on the bench here. Well, now that you're starting to learn more, the analytical team, sometimes, I'll say this. Now that I'm starting to get into the business and I covered the Sixers for 97.3 ESPN before the shutdown happened, and I'm starting to get more involved in sports media and having more sources, there is so much that happens behind the scenes that is not common knowledge to most fans who watches the sport. There is so much that goes down. It's almost mind-blowing. So there are so many things, like the analytical stuff, setting the rotations and telling people when to sit and who to put in there in certain times in certain games. I mean, it's crazy. But you would think, hey, Brett Brown, what's going on here? Right? So I just want to say, it was obvious Brett Brown needed to be fired. I also want to say there's so much that happens internally, it's wild. But when you look at this coaching staff now, there is no doubt it is a major upgrade with NBA experience. Dave Joerger, who was a head coach in this league, had success with Memphis. Things went down in Sacramento. He was canned. His record, he finished with a 245 and 247 record as the head coach. Tough coach. I mean, he's tough. He's got some intensity, and he could bring a lot to the table defensively. That's what I'm intrigued for the most when it comes to Doc Rivers and Joerger, the defense. The defense, I'm sure, is going to be crazy. Now, with this current roster, I think there's going to be a lot of problems offensively still unless they find ways to make changes and to make trades. And who knows, if they hire Morey, can they go down that road to make a lot of trades? Let's hope, right? Let's hope, because I think they need more. I think the defense is going to be absolutely crazy. The spark factor of having these two coaches in play is going to be a major difference. I think I can't stress it enough. The shock factor of having two personalities like Doc Rivers and Dave Joerger in the mix on the court, it's going to bring a different level of intensity. You get comfortable with any coach. Yes, Brett Brown was softer. You probably get more comfortable than you would with other coaches with Brett Brown, but you saw after so many damn years, you get too comfortable with the guy and change is needed. And with Doc Rivers and with Joerger, they're going to be intense. They're going to be brutal. They're going to bring it. They're going to kick your ass, and I think that is going to add another element to this team. And I just wonder if they look at this roster and they think they can get the most out of these players. Do they look at this and go, hold on, Al Horford? You're telling me we can't use Al Horford? Of course we can use Al Horford. I wonder if they're looking at this roster from a talent standpoint, individual talent standpoint, think, I can make this work. And I feel like they are saying that, without a doubt. It's tougher than they maybe imagine it being, and I wonder if they're going to struggle at some point trying to figure that out. But I just wonder what's going to happen. Do they look at this and go, I can make this work? Now, I don't want to trade Ben. I don't want to trade Joel. I'm okay with moving any of the other pieces, but I think you keep those two together. There was this report by Scoop B. Robinson, who is a good friend of 97.3 ESPN. We have him on a couple times, specifically with Josh Hennig, who is the host of Game Night every night on 97.3 ESPN at 6 o'clock p.m. He said that the Houston Rockets are interested in trading for Joel Embiid, but James Harden is not on the table. Now, you get rid of someone like Daryl Morey. They don't have a head coach. Who's making that type of decision to make that trade? And to be honest with you, who the hell are you giving up? Who the hell do you have on that roster? Robert Covington? You want to replace Joel Embiid? The 5 position for the Sixers with Robert Covington? The Rockets 5, right? Robert Covington comes back and he ends up playing center for the Philadelphia 76ers like D'Antoni had him playing in the playoffs. And to be fair, hey, look, he gave it his all. I'm not going to rip him apart for him playing that position. With that type of styled offense, I thought he did okay. But look, there's no way. There's not a big enough package that the Rockets without James Harden can send. I don't want Russell Westbrook. I don't want that. That's not winning. Russell Westbrook's not a winner. His numbers are declining insanely. Look, I'm going to say this because, look, when you say things like this, people go, well, Ben can't do it, but he can't shoot the ball from 3. His numbers are going in the wrong way. I don't want Russell Westbrook. So you don't give up on Joel. I need Doc Rivers to get an attempt with Joel and Ben Simmons. And to be fair, when someone like Doc Rivers takes the job, why do you think he took the job? It wasn't Elton Brand. It wasn't Furkan Korkmaz. It wasn't Shake Milton. The reason he took the job was because of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. You're going to get that with Doc Rivers. You're going to get an attempt with Doc Rivers. He's going to have a shot with these two. I just question, will you move on from other pieces first? Or do you give him a full season of these players and you give it a whirl? It's a crazy spot the Sixers are in, and to be honest with you, I've been one of the most down people on this organization because they're just a mess. And you know, a lot of people like to go with the roster and Elton Brand. There is so much happening up top that I couldn't even comprehend it. It was a problem, and it was snowballing into the reasons why the Sixers were having so many damn issues. Elton Brand was essentially a puppet. Now I'm starting to get the sense that things are moving in the right direction, and maybe it's because Josh Harris sees that the fan base is losing out big time, but it also seems he's aware why things went wrong. They dove way deep into the wrong analytics. He has his fingerprints on there too much, and I heard that the Sixers are investigating in Daryl Morey. That makes me excited, yet more concerned than the rest. I want to stress that. I want him to be an option. If you can hire him and he could be a part of your front office, and you tell me an Elton Brand, a Daryl Morey, a Doc Rivers, and a Dave Yeager is your culture, it's your society, if you will, it's the top guys there, you're not in a bad spot. I was always concerned after the Brett Brown firing that this was just going to go off the rails. And I stated, this was such a big moment to define the process. This offseason here, where you were going with the hiring department, how you were going to reshape your front office, this is going to be the difference on how this team delivers in the next handful of seasons and more. And I'm not going to lie to you, to this point, I'm pretty intrigued. Yeager was a hell of an assistant coach signing. The amount of NBA head coaching experience on the bench right now, it's an upgrade. No doubt about it, it's an upgrade. When you think about Brett Brown's assistant coaches, and you had Monty Williams who moved on, and you had Pierce who moved on. Like, you had some guys who, look, intriguing names. They're not terrible coaches whatsoever, but now it's starting to shape up more of a professional veteran bench, and I think that adds so much value. I don't think that in terms of on the court stuff, big time X and O things. An NBA coach has a role, and that role caps out around 20%. I think they have a role in the NBA, but look around the league at who wins championships every year. Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. These players, there's a reason why they are involved all the time. You need that superstar talent. There's a handful of coaches that can push that 20%. Eric Spoelstra, Greg Popovich. I think Doc Rivers is a good coach. I don't think he's in that category of pushing teams over the top X's and O's guys. But what I do know is that he has respect. He demands respect. And I'm not saying Brett Brown doesn't demand respect or no one respects him. The players respected him. It just adds another layer to it. Some guys are respected and some guys are insanely respected. And Doc Rivers is a guy who's insanely respected. And I think this coaching staff now is a very professional, experienced coaching staff. You know, I bring up the X's and O's thing because, look, Doc Rivers has failed. Quite frankly, he has failed. And that's why I thought it was so funny, because the people who rip Brett Brown for blowing all these leads, they're so excited for Doc Rivers. Because, why? When it comes to winning, he had a championship 12 years ago. But he's failed 3-1 series leads. If Brett Brown blew 3-1 series leads, it would be obnoxious. It was already obnoxious, but it gets blown to even a higher level. It's just interesting how people think. I like to study the psychology part of things, the sociology part of things, why people think the way that they do. I'm not trying to knock the Doc Rivers hire. I like it. But I also don't put as much stock into the NBA head coach as some others do. But that's not to downplay what they can provide. I think it's important to have veteran experience on that part of the job. And I think the Sixers did a hell of a job acquiring that. To this point, it could be much better than it is right now. I am pleasantly surprised, but it's not done yet. The job is not finished. I think you got to rebuild, because a lot of people right now are probably thinking about that roster, and the roster needs to be tweaked. I don't think you can succeed until the front office is tweaked. It starts from the top. So yes, obviously, you're going to have to make changes. You're going to have to do something different. Things need to be implemented when it comes to this roster. Moving in Al Horford, trying to get some new pieces easily. I support it 3,000%. But you got to build within from the top to the bottom. And right now, they got to start shuffling some pieces and moving some guys around. Getting rid of some individuals. And when you hear a name like Daryl Morey, you got to listen. You got to investigate. I'm not claiming that he's going to change the world. I'm not claiming that he's going to do a perfect job. I have some criticism of what he's done. It has not been perfect. I'm afraid that he might be too aggressive. I love aggressiveness, but too aggressive. And is he going to be looked at as someone over Elton Brand? I would assume so. Well, from my knowledge, they've been looking for someone to hire underneath of Elton Brand. So how does that change things? It's something that needs to be done to get Josh Harris out of the mix. His fingerprints cannot be implemented on this team anymore unless you want to fail. If you want to fail, if you want to have a team that's going to be horrendous at the top, well, then you stay with where you are right now. You got to make that change. And to this point, I got to credit Elton Brand, because it seems like he is definitely getting more involved in these pieces. These hirings sound like more of, an Elton Brand type hiring. Although I just know that Josh Harris is involved right now because there's nobody else in place to be discussing with Elton Brand, and that's where I think Daryl Morey can come into play. All right, well, this episode is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power, and with over 20 years of experience in the industry, they are home to your solar experts in both residential and commercial projects. They are dedicated to making sure your project is completed easily and properly by using high-quality materials and trained professionals to get the job done right. Their solar program helps eliminate your electric bill completely. We're talking $0 electric bills, people. They also provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. So check out their information. It is all down below. All right, we will keep our eyes on what is happening with the Sixers front office moves and what's going to be happening moving forward. With Morey, there was some talk about the whole Hong Kong thing, and it would be ridiculous for me not to bring it up. Now, I'm not going big and deep into the whole political thing because I think that is horrendous, and I don't want to go down that road whatsoever. But when everything was happening with Hong Kong and China and the NBA, he was saying, look, we got to figure things out, and what's happening in Hong Kong and China, like, that needs to be figured out. We can't allow this to be going down while the NBA has so much money invested with that part of the world, and a lot of their fans come from there. They get a lot of income from China, from Hong Kong. There was a lot of noise surrounding that issue. I'll just say that. There was a lot of things circulating with that issue when it comes to Daryl Morey. Earlier in the season, it went away. It definitely went away. I just wonder if that will factor into the equation at all with him wanting to work in the NBA, or if NBA teams want to associate with him, because it's a sticky situation, obviously. All right, so there you have it. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.